December 16th, 1944, 4:30 a.m. Over 400,000 German soldiers pour through the Ardennes Forest in total silence. American radar picks up nothing. American intelligence suspects nothing. By sunrise, entire American units have been surrounded, cut off, annihilated. The Germans are outnumbered, outgunned, running out of fuel and ammunition. The war is clearly lost. So how did they do this? Here's what American commanders discovered that terrified them. Man for man, the German soldier was more effective than the American soldier. Not more fanatical, not more brutal, more professionally dangerous. Even in total defeat at Berlin, surrounded and doomed, German defenders killed over 81,000 Soviet soldiers and destroyed nearly 2,000 tanks in 2 weeks. American veterans who fought in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam all said the same thing. The Germans were the hardest enemy they ever fought. Why? What you're about to discover explains why American casualties in Europe were so high, why battles that should have been easy victories turned into bloodbaths, and why the US military, after winning the war, adopted the German way of fighting as its own. But first, you need to understand something most people get wrong about how soldiers are made. Quick request before we dive in, drop a comment right now telling me where you're watching from. Last video, we had viewers from 50 countries and it blew my mind. Let's beat that record. And if you want the real history, not the myths, hit subscribe. All right, here's what made German soldiers so dangerous. To understand why fighting Germans was so hard, start with this question. When did German soldiers start training for war? If you said when they enlisted, you're wrong. They started at age 10. Let me show you how this worked. Starting in the mid-1930s, German boys were enrolled in Hitler Youth, not as propaganda victims, as future soldiers. By 1937, Hitler Youth had established rifle schools. By 1938, 1.5 million boys were trained in marksmanship. By 1939, the German High Command was directly supervising their military field exercises. Compare that to an American soldier in 1944. Age 19. 3 to 4 months of total training. Basic training, then specialty training, then deployment. But it wasn't just how long they trained. It was what they were trained to do when everything goes wrong. And that's where American soldiers discovered a problem they weren't prepared for. American training was built around a simple idea. Learn your role. Follow orders. Do what your sergeant tells you. Do what your officer commands. German training was built around a different question. What do you do when there's no one left to give orders? Let me show you how this played out in combat and why it got American soldiers killed. Picture this. An American infantry squad is advancing through a French village. Suddenly, machine gun fire erupts from a stone building 50 yards ahead. The squad dives for cover behind a low wall. The sergeant's heart is pounding. He's got 8 men pinned down. The machine gun has them locked in place. He does what he's been trained to do. He reaches for his radio. "Lieutenant, we've got a machine gun nest. 2nd floor window. What are your orders?" The lieutenant receives the call. He's 200 yards back, can't see the building, can't assess the situation, so he does what he's been trained to do. He radios the captain. "Sir, 3rd squad is pinned by machine gun fire, requesting orders." The captain pulls out his map, studies the grid coordinates, calculates fields of fire, makes a decision. He'll call in artillery support. Better to use firepower than risk casualties. He makes the call. Artillery command acknowledges. They calculate firing solutions, adjust coordinates, load shells. 15 minutes have passed since that first burst of machine gun fire. Now picture a different village, a different day, a German squad advancing through identical terrain. The same situation unfolds. Machine gun fire from a stone building. The squad takes cover. But the German sergeant doesn't reach for a radio. He's already scanning the building. Ground floor, 2nd floor, then he sees it. a basement window, half hidden behind overgrown weeds, dark, undefended. He catches the eye of his two best soldiers. No words, just hand signals. You and you, around the left side, basement window. I'll suppress. The two soldiers move immediately. No hesitation. They've trained for this. The sergeant opens fire on the second-floor window, keeps the machine gun crew's attention forward. 30 seconds later, his two soldiers reach the basement window. One pulls a stick grenade, yanks the cord, counts 2 seconds, tosses it through the window. The explosion is muffled by stone walls. Then silence. 3 minutes have passed since that first burst of machine gun fire. 12 minutes. That's the difference between waiting for permission and acting on initiative. Between following a chain of command and trusting your sergeant to make the call. And here's what made it devastating. That 12-minute gap didn't happen once. It happened in every firefight, every ambush, every unexpected contact. Those minutes accumulated. They turned into casualties. American soldiers waiting for orders while German soldiers were already flanking, already repositioning, already attacking. American commanders saw the pattern in after-action reports. German units with fewer men were holding against larger American forces. German squads were reacting faster, adapting quicker. At first, they didn't understand why. Then, they discovered the truth. This wasn't just a difference in training. This was something deeper. A complete philosophy of warfare that had been refined over generations. The Germans had a word for it. Auftragstaktik, mission tactics. And once you understand what that word really means, everything about German effectiveness makes sense. American officers told soldiers how to fight. German officers told soldiers what to accomplish. The difference sounds small. In combat, it was everything. But there's a problem with this system. It only works if your soldiers are already professionals when they arrive at the front. And by 1944, most German soldiers defending France weren't just trained professionals. They were combat veterans of the most brutal battlefield in human history, the Eastern Front. More people died there than in every other theater of World War II combined. Soldiers who survived Stalingrad, Kursk, Soviet offensives that attacked in waves overwhelming positions through sheer numbers. Winter combat, where frostbite killed as many as bullets, where tanks froze solid, where rifles jammed from ice. These men knew how to fight when everything goes wrong, because on the Eastern Front, everything always went wrong. Average American soldier landing at Normandy? Never been shot at, never seen someone die. His first day of combat was D-Day. But here's what shocked American intelligence officers when they started analyzing battle reports. German effectiveness didn't decline when they started losing. In fact, in their final battles, surrounded and doomed, they became even more lethal. Let me show you 2 examples that prove this. April 1945, Berlin. The Red Army surrounds the city with 2.5 million soldiers, 6,250 tanks, 41,600 artillery pieces. The German defenders, maybe 100,000 soldiers, mostly old men and teenage Hitler youth. No air support, no hope of reinforcement, no chance of survival. Everyone knew the war was over. Hitler would be dead within weeks. Germany would surrender within days. So why fight? In 2 weeks of desperate street fighting, those doomed German defenders killed 81,116 Soviet soldiers and destroyed 1,997 Soviet tanks. That's the German army in one statistic. Losing the war, winning individual battles. But Berlin shows German skill in defeat. Ternopil shows something darker. What happens when that professional skill is wasted by strategic stupidity? March 1944. Ternopil, Ukraine. Hitler declares it a fortress. 4,600 German soldiers must hold it at all costs. The first commander arrives, assesses the situation. Messages. Hitler, This position is hopeless. Hitler fires him immediately. The replacement commander tries anyway. For a month, those 4,600 soldiers hold against overwhelming Soviet forces. When the battle finally ends, 4,545 are dead or wounded. 55 soldiers escape, a 99% casualty rate. German soldiers were professionals, but Hitler's strategic insanity turned professional skill into a death sentence. But training and experience only explain half the story. The weapons they carried made the other half. And there's a myth about those weapons we need to destroy right now. Let's talk about Hitler's buzzsaw, the MG42, German machine gun, 1,200 rounds per minute. You couldn't hear individual shots, just continuous buzzing.
Now they're 42.
American bar, 500 to 600 rounds per minute. The MG42 fired twice as fast. But here's what made it devastating. German squads were built around the machine gun. Riflemen supported it. American squads were built around riflemen. The bar supported them. One German sergeant with an MG42 could produce more firepower than an entire American rifle squad. That's why small German units could hold positions against larger American forces. But the MG42 isn't the weapon everyone talks about. Everyone wants to know about the tanks. Specifically, the myth you've probably heard. It took 5 Shermans to kill 1 Tiger. That's BS. Let me show you the real data. The myth comes from one book, Death Traps by Belton Cooper. Historians consider it unreliable. The actual data? 1946 U.S. Army study. 30 tank versus tank engagements. Sherman versus Panther. Sherman kill ratio 3.6 to 1 in favor of the Sherman. Not the other way around. British after-action reports across all tank engagements. Allies inflicted 1.3 casualties for each Sherman loss. In a frontal engagement at long range, the Sherman was at a disadvantage, but American doctrine didn't rely on frontal engagements. Flank it, call air support, use tank destroyers, fight smart, not fair. And here's the critical fact everyone forgets. Tigers were rare. Most German tanks were Panzer IVs, which Shermans fought evenly. The myth that American tanks were helpless is just that, a myth. The Sherman's real advantage was reliability and numbers. For every Tiger Germany produced, America made 10 Shermans, but despite better logistics, better production, overwhelming numbers, American soldiers still took devastating casualties. Why? Because American abundance created a hidden weakness. Here's the paradox that confused everyone. America had the best logistics in military history. When American units needed artillery, hundreds of guns responded. Air support came in squadrons. Replacement tanks arrived within days. Germany had none of this. Undersupplied, low on fuel, low on ammunition. But superior logistics made American units slower. German units traveled light, moved fast. American units waited for supplies, set up supply lines, moved methodically. You could beat them in the morning, and they were on you in the afternoon. While American units were consolidating positions and bringing up supplies, German units retreated, regrouped, and counterattacked. In the long run, American firepower won. But in individual battles, German speed killed Americans. At the Battle of the Bulge, Germany committed close to 500,000 men. They lost over 100,000 soldiers. Irreplaceable. For America, replacements were already crossing the Atlantic, but there was one cost of fighting Germans that nobody expected, a psychological burden that had nothing to do with combat. January 1945, coldest January ever recorded in Western Europe. American soldiers fighting in the Ardennes weren't just fighting Germans. They were fighting weather that could kill them without an enemy firing a shot. 23,000 American soldiers became trench foot casualties in 2 months. Your feet get wet, stay wet in freezing temperatures. Flesh rots, turns black, amputations, and you're trying to fight while your feet are dying. Germans had been fighting in winter for years on the Eastern Front. They knew how to prevent it. Americans were learning while dying, but there was a deeper psychological cost. One veteran said it perfectly. What made it hard was they look like me. Many Americans had German last names, German ancestry. You'd capture a German soldier and realize he looked like your uncle. That made killing hard. Until December 17th, 1944, when one event eliminated any sympathy, near Malmedy, Belgium. SS troops under Joachim Peiper captured 84 American soldiers, lined them up in a field, machine-gunned them. This wasn't the Wehrmacht, professional soldiers who fought by rules. This was the SS, Nazi ideological troops who were murderers. And that distinction mattered to every American soldier who fought them. So, if German soldiers were more effective, man for man, why did they lose? Strategy. Hitler's insanity, Ternopil, the Bulge, fortress cities, strategic stupidity, squandered tactical brilliance, logistics, peak production rates. Germany couldn't match. One Liberty ship launched every day, one bomber every hour from a single factory. Numbers. America could replace losses. Germany couldn't. Every German casualty was irreplaceable. German soldiers were let down by German leadership. American soldiers who fought Germans came away respecting them. Not as Nazis, as soldiers. You hadn't been in a war unless you had fought the Germans. After the war, American officers studied German tactics, started adopting mission-oriented command. The modern US military uses concepts borrowed from German doctrine. Decentralized command, mission-type orders, NCO initiative. The Germans lost the war, but their doctrine influenced armies for generations. That's the answer. German soldiers were more effective because of training, doctrine, and experience. But America had more soldiers, better logistics, and strategic clarity. Quality lost to quantity. But the quality was real. And American soldiers who fought them never forgot it. So here's my question for you. Knowing the 5 Shermans myth isn't true, knowing the real data, do you think German soldiers were actually better? Or is this just history romanticizing the losing side? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I want to see this debate. If you learned something that changed how you see World War II, hit that like button and subscribe for more history that destroys myths and shows you what actually happened. Thanks for watching.